At its very core, this channel is devoted to futurism. We're interested in what is going to happen not only in the immediate future, like the next quarter, the next half, the next year, but also what's going to happen downstream 5 years, 10 years from now. That may sound a little crazy coming from somebody who's 76 years old, but I'm still extremely interested in what is going to evolve over the next decade or so with regard to the future of humanity, with regard to how the various economics of the world will be acting, how it's going to raise, yep, all boats. In the words of Ronald Reagan, this is the core of what we talk about on this channel. Now, besides Elon Musk, there are a couple of people like Kathy Wood that are clearly speaking through me on this channel because they have influenced me greatly over the last 3, 4, 5 years as I've been putting together these books on Elon Musk and also these videos. But maybe nobody outside of Elon Musk has influenced me as much as Tony Seba. Now, why does Tony Seba influence me so much? Well, because he's right. He's right over and over again, provably correct, and doesn't seem to miss often. So as early as the 2012, 2013, 2014, he was writing books, and he was really being very specific about what the cost of lithium ion batteries would be in now in 2024, recommending or saying what he thought would happen with electric cars in 2024, 25, 30, what he thought would happen in terms of the S curve of adoption. So a lot of the stuff that you see me talking about, if you haven't looked at the basics, they're over at Tony Seba. He's the one who talks about disruptive technologies and the impact of these technologies on the present, but also on the future. Well, Tony Seba has just put out a new blog post, a very detailed, very long blog post. And then Cern Basher has broken it up and made it a little shorter, simpler to understand on X. And I'm going to be quoting from what Cern Basher has done. He's on this channel all the time, and Cern does a great job. So he has, as usual, done a great job of ferreting out the important parts of this story. Now, this is so long anyway. There's 20 of these points. We are not going to be able to get into all 20 points on this video. I will break it up. In fact, I would say there's at least a 50-50 chance we'll be talking about this for 2 weeks. Cern Basher will undoubtedly have some things to say about it on Thursday morning when he and I speak. And it may be that, again, we'll be talking about this far into the future, but at this point, Tony Seba has decided to take on the robotics revolution and give his thoughts on that. So let's dig in. All right. He calls this thing this time, "We Are the Horses." So, yeah, he shows in some of his earliest work, he shows, one of the biggest disruptions in human history in economic terms was where the automobile took over for the horse. He loves to show two pictures. A picture, I think, in 1902 in New York City, which shows horses and carriages everywhere. And he says, find the automobile. And if you really look hard, you can find a single automobile. And I think it's 10 years later or so, he shows the same street in New York City, and there's cars everywhere. And he says, find the horse, and there's one single horse. So he's saying that that disruption is kind of the iconic example that you can look to and look, so many other disruptions since then that have been similar in the way that consumers have said, okay, the out with the old and in with the new. And these are happening over and over and over again. And each time you see these, you think, well, that will be the end of life as we know it. Each time it just is an advance, a dramatic advance. That's one of the other things that is talked about now. Is coming up more and more in conversations about the current tech revolution, is that what we've really seen over this last 150 years is that such a dramatic increase in the wealth of humans on this planet that it's, obviously unprecedented, but that's not giving it its due. Somebody else the other day, I can't remember who it was, showed a picture of an airplane. I think it was maybe one of the first airplanes, maybe in the 19 aughts, aught six or aught, I can't remember exactly when this airplane was shown. And then 66 later, 60, well, okay, I guess we could see when that is. It would have been maybe in '03. Yeah, '03. And then 66 later, we had men in space. Uh, you know, and no, men is not only men in space, men on the moon, 1969, men on the moon. So 66 years between 2000, 1903 and 1969. That's pretty amazing. All right. So let's go on and take a look at the first point here that Cern Basher has pulled from the Tony Seba blog. He says, this time we are the horses, the disruption of labor by humanoid robots. This is difficult to hear, but well said. For the first time in human history, we will have something that could eventually do all physical tasks better than humans. Now, that's kind of a hyperbolic statement. I'm not sure whether that was Cern or Tony speaking at that point. That's not easy to tell from the way that this post is written. But let's just say that humanoid robots will be able to do massive numbers of tasks better than humans. How's that work? So I've made some points. I've talked a lot on this channel about things that will not be disrupted. One of those will be something like what I'm doing right now. Yes, people will be able to make and are already making videos with AI characters that do a great job. And all you have to do is, create the script and turn these talking heads loose. These are literally talking heads because there's no human there. But you can see through them. You can tell. And even if you couldn't tell, I think we're always going to want to see the humanity. We're always going to want to see the human. And so somehow I would have to be able to prove to you that I'm human. And that might be hard, but maybe it'll be the flaws that'll give the other ones, the lack of flaws that'll give the other ones away. All right, number two, just as internal combustion engines gave automobiles the capability to disrupt horses, a convergence of technologies that together create what we call a labor engine. That's what they're calling it. A labor engine is what gives humanoid robots the capability to disrupt human labor. Flesh and blood cannot compete with engines. Okay, so once again, let's talk about a couple of words here. Convergence of technologies. Again, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to the category of disruption, if you're new to this to this idea of thinking about the future, what we're seeing over and over again is convergences of technologies. This is Kathy Wood's famous statement. Maybe she got it from Tony Seba. I'm not sure, but it's where multiple technologies come together at a particular place in time that make a new product or a new category of products possible that wouldn't have been possible 3 years before if all those components had not come together at exactly that time. And the phenomenal example of that is the iPhone. If transistors had not been small enough, if batteries couldn't be made small enough, if the way that the information was gathered from the Wi-Fi was not fast enough, etc. All these technologies had to converge in order to make a phone that was could do what the initial smartphones could do well enough at a low enough price. All that was necessary for it to come together at one time. And Steve Jobs had the vision to be able to see that this convergence was happening and could happen. Right now, Elon Musk, 2 years ago, looked at the robotics thing and said, we have a convergence of technologies here. We will be able to make humanoid robots that will be able to do virtually all human tasks. So number three, the other thing would be calling it a labor engine. I think that's fine. And the capability to disrupt human labor, I think that's all good. All right. Number three, over the next 15 to 20 years, that's an interesting making the point that it's that fast. Humanoid robots will disrupt human labor throughout hundreds of industries across every major section of the global economy. The disruption of labor will be among the most profound transformations in human history and therefore simultaneously represent one of the greatest opportunities and greatest challenges our civilization has ever faced. All powerful new technologies are both exciting and scary at the same time. Think about the television, how people were afraid of what that might do. I'm sure if I'd been around, well, maybe I was around for the radio. No, at the beginning of the radio, people probably thought that cars, They thought if you went over 35 miles an hour, you would die. There was so many of these things. So exciting, yes. Very exciting and very potentially dangerous. Comes with a lot of potential problems. Nuclear weaponry, that would be another one. Nuclear energy, but nuclear weaponry. This it it seems apparent to me at this point. It doesn't seem at all what's the word? How do I want to say this? I don't think there's a chance in heck that we are not going to see humanoid robots performing substantial tasks. Now, in the beginning, the first, 100,000, 200,000, million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 10 million humanoid robots will be doing simple tasks. And I think we'll talk about that in a minute. But we've already had massive amounts of automation, both electronic and mechanical, disruptive technologies over the last, 200 years. The idea of automating work is not new. The lever, a mechanical lever, screwdrivers. I mean, there's so many things that we've done, tools that we've created to automate human labor, and what they do is make us more wealthy. All right, number 4, throughout history, every time technology has enabled a 10 times or greater cost reduction relative to the incumbent system, a disruption follows. So now that becomes Tony Seba's definition. If it's only a 5 times greater, then that's not a disruption in his point. So then he says each dollar then, if you have this disruption, each dollar spent on an automobile or an LED light bulb or a digital camera delivers more than 10 times the utility of each dollar that would have been spent on a horse, an incandescent bulb, or a film camera, respectively. We should expect it to be no different this time. So yeah, and each of those things had massive implications for the way that people manage their lives. Even the camera or the bulb changed everything about how we manage our lives. Number 5, at first, humanoid robots will only be able to perform relatively simple tasks, what I was saying a minute ago. But each day that passes, their capabilities will grow until by the 2040s, they will be able to do virtually anything a human can do and much more besides. And I'll add, faster, less expensively, well, almost for free, because basically these humanoid robots are only going to cost, manufacturing costs will probably be I mean, now, currently, something around $6,000, $8,000, maybe 10 at the most. So they will be able to sell for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So the cost of these bots will be so low compared to their value that they'll be almost free. And now that depends on how long they last, how much repairs will they require in order to keep going. But if they can do 2 shifts a day, 3 shifts a day, or as we know, we use the weekends 24/7, that's 4 shifts. If one of these robots for even $50,000 or even $50,000 a year can do shifts like that, it's unbelievable how low the cost will be for the labor. He says, we see bots walking awkwardly or working slowly now. We think we have plenty of time. No, this will happen very, very fast. Number 6, humanoid robots, or what Rethink X, which is Tony Seba's company, calls a disruption from below. He says, initially, they will be cheaper per hour than hiring a human worker in many regions, but also less capable. They'll be slower, less competent, less adaptable. We have seen disruptions from below many times before, such as digital cameras. And the response from the incumbents is predictable. They mock the new technology for being lower performing, but they ignore the rate at which the new technology gets both better and cheaper until it's too late to respond. And then they face collapse. So yeah, we've seen this over and over again, but it doesn't even matter if it's from the bottom up. Even when it's flat across, I would say that the first iPhones, the first smartphones, that was a straight across disruption. It wasn't from the bottom up. And yet the incumbents laughed and they thought that flip phones would be around forever. And no, I don't think so. Anyway, number 7, electricity wasn't cheaper than whale oil. I'm sorry, let me say that again. Electricity wasn't just cheaper whale oil. Automobiles weren't just faster horses. Farming wasn't just more productive hunting and gathering. And the internet wasn't just an easier way to send letters, read newspapers, listen to music, or I'll add to that, research. Um, Humanoid robots won't just displace human jobs either. Instead, they will create an entirely new and vastly larger and more capable labor system. Is it possible to know in advance the full details of how the new labor system will differ from today? But the key feature is the marginal cost of labor will rapidly approach zero. Imagine everything we can do can be done for almost free. That was my point earlier. And I've made this point on this channel many times before, is that I have looked at, I'm going to say, hundreds at least, maybe in the thousands, but at least hundreds of inventions. In the bicycle industry, you know that's where I come from. Primarily, I was involved in many other industries over my career, but I was primarily in the bicycle industry. And the bicycle industry is a inventor's, dream. There's so many millions of inventions for bicycles. Everybody that's got a little shop in their garage and thinks they have inventive capability comes up with ideas they think are going to make them millionaires in the bicycle business. I've seen so many because I became the go-to guy in the bike business in the United States. Nobody else wanted to touch these inventors. They didn't want to touch the inventions because of all the issues of being sued and everything. So they would say, go see Randy. Randy doesn't care. He's okay to be sued. So anyway, they would bring their inventions to me. Frequently, the biggest issue was just whether it could be made for a low enough cost in the early days to be able to be survivable. It wasn't that it wasn't a good idea. A lot of these ideas were great ideas, but then you take a look at it and you're going, okay, here is some incumbent products that you can sell for $10. And this product in the early going is going to have to sell for 30, let's say. And you go, is anybody going to pay $30 to get that little bit of additional functionality, that little bit of additional benefit in some way, looks or whatever it might be? Will they pay the extra money? And that's how you make a judgment a lot of times. When you have free labor, all of a sudden, it's just the cost of the raw materials and setting up the tooling, for maybe some of the other aspects that go into the manufacture. And, it's maybe not going to come down to the cost to make it. It's really just going to come down to functionality. And eventually, many products that today cost $10 might be costing $3 for the same product as the robots start to make it. Number 8, the disruption of labor is about tasks, not jobs. So long as humanoid robots are not sentient, they will not have jobs. They will perform tasks. Their equipment, their tools. The disruption of labor with all the world-changing implications can therefore only be understood with tasks as the correct unit of analysis. Tasks per hour per dollar as the corresponding cost capability metric. So in other words, what you've got here is, we've talked about this. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know we've been talking a lot about how to price out the robots once they start going into industry. Some people talk about just selling them outright. Cost me $10,000 to build it, sell it for $20,000, take 10 grand. Yeah, that's a good deal. I'll do that all day long. Other people are like, well, I'll build it for 10,000, sell it for 60,000. That would be kind of like the Model Y during the pandemic, where if you made the car for 25,000 and you sold it for a fair markup of 35,000, then somebody else would take it for 35,000 and sell it to their next door neighbor for 100,000 or 60,000 because that's what the market was willing to pay at that time. So if I've got a bot that I sell for 10,000, but there's a limited number of them, somebody else is going to turn right around. They'll be the middleman and they'll sell it to the highest bidder. And that might be $60,000 or $100,000. Eventually, if you're making billions of bots, then the price will come to where it, would settle down based on the actual inputs. But again, the inputs are going to get cheaper and cheaper. So those bots are going to get cheaper and cheaper. But so how do you analyze it? I've been saying for months and months and months, I believe they will be rented, leased, not sold. But the reality is there's 26 different companies making, or in the process of getting ready to make these bots. So even if Tesla decides to lease them, some other company might decide to sell them outright. The market will be interesting to watch. Some people have said, well, if you're going to lease it, you can lease it by the hour, you can lease it by the day, you can lease it by the month. In the early going, I'm saying you lease it just like you normally lease industrial equipment, you lease it for 5 years, for 3 years, for a year. You don't want to lease it for a day. Now, middlemen might do that. So maybe I decide to buy 20 bots and I have an Optimus rental company. And you call me up and you say, hey, look, I need 3 bots for 5 days. And I rent them out to you for 5 days. But I don't think that's how the major manufacturers are going to do it, but they might. Tony Seba says, look, I want to rent it by the tasks. So if I want, I famously, of course, was in the water bottle business, and putting caps on water bottles is one of the things I talk about all the time. So I might say, look, I want to pay. I'm paying my labor right now 4 cents to put a cap on a labor on a to put a cap on a water bottle. I'll pay you all day long a penny per bottle if your bot can do that, and then you just charge me based on a penny per bottle. So there's lots of ways to play it, but that's what he's recommending here. Number 9, labor is an essential input into every link of every supply chain of every product and service across the entire global economy. In other words, to draw the raw material out of the earth or out of the ocean, et cetera, the extraction process requires labor. You extract it, now you transport it to the place where you're going to. It might only mean putting it into a fish into a cart and taking it over to somebody who's going to gut it, but there's still labor to do that. Now you got somebody who's going to gut that fish and prep it, put it on the stand. That's all labor. And now you've got somebody who, maybe the restaurant is going to buy that fish, going to take it to the restaurant. They got to transport it over there. That's labor. You get the point. Labor at every level of everything that's happening. So that means as the cost of labor falls, so will the cost of everything else. We must expect and plan for a sweeping tide of supply-driven deflationary pressure across the entire global economy as a function of the disruption by the humanoid robots. Yes, that's right. Cern Basher says, and demand-driven deflationary pressure also comes from population decline. Managing this deflation wave will be critical for governments. So we have a declining population. We've got declining costs at every level of the manufacturing or even the services industries. So you've got products getting more and more, I mean, maybe dropping in half. You know how a television, gets bigger, it offers you more smart stuff, and yet is costing you less. Well, this is going to be happening across everything. Better and better products at lower and lower prices with more functionality. And so therefore, you're going to have your labor dollar, what you get paid to do your job, is going to stretch a lot further. This is going to be true of everything from vehicles to houses. I mean, just to food. Everything is going to be dirt cheap. Now, this is not just because of humanoid labor. This is also going to be true because of changes that are happening in medicine, changes that are happening in of course, the what do you want to call it? The AI world of like ChatGPT, et cetera, the way that we compute things. All of these things are going to be also contributing. The food methods of manufacturing food, 3D printing, all of these disruptions I've been talking about this for months now. All of these are going to be adding up to very inexpensive ways of producing the things that we absolutely need to survive. He says 10, the quality of virtually all manufacturers' goods will tend to improve because the limits of skill and attention to detail that apply to humans don't apply to robots. So I've talked about this as well. Quality control and precision. Sometimes you might think you don't need the precision, but if you had the precision, it just makes the thing better. And then what about quality control? You might think that, having one failure out of 100 is okay, but now with the robots will be able to visually inspect, maybe also inspect in other ways, tactily in other ways, way better than humans. So you'll have the quality control happening right at the point of manufacture, and you'll have virtually no quality problems. And again, precision, all of that will mean junk will no longer be a thing. Every humanoid robot will perform every task it's capable of performing at maximum quality, and it will do it exactly the same every single time. Now, again, that's partially true, partially not, because all equipment fails too, and the robots will fail from time to time, but the incidence will drop dramatically. All right, that's 10 out of the 20. I think we'll stop it there for now. I'll put this one up on Tuesday. And then I'll do the other 10, and we'll put that up maybe on Wednesday. And then Cern Basher will be on Thursday. So maybe Cern will have his own take and his own version, his own ways of thinking about some of these. This is so critical. This is so important in terms of your total understanding of the potential for Tesla for what's going to happen with these bots. It's not going to happen in 2030. It's not going to happen in 2028. No, it's happening right now. There are Optimus robots working in the plant at Tesla. That was confirmed over the weekend. And there will be Tesla bots being sold to third parties in 2025. Elon Musk has told us that. And every ounce of me believes that when I take a look at the current capabilities. Okay, let me know in the comments below what you think. Tony Seba, if you don't know who Tony Seba is, look him up and start reading his stuff if you really want to know what's coming in the future. And what is that going to do for you? It's going to give you arbitrage. It's going to allow you to know stuff that the Wall Street geniuses don't know. That is the key to playing Wall Street. That's the key to playing the stock market, is knowing what the vast majority of people have no idea about before they know it, and then being able to place your bet before the thing becomes reality. All right, that's all I got for you right now. It's Randy Kirk. It's been great talking to you.